I had once believed that marrying into the Duke's residence would allow for a harmonious union with my husband. Little did I expect that my husband would be indifferent, and my mother-in-law would be devoid of affection. My monthly allowance is not even comparable to that of a lowly servant girl, as each quarter, my garments are nothing more than the substandard remnants chosen from the White Lotus selection. Even my own son has branded me as a wicked woman. Ultimately, I was inexplicably cast aside by my lord and relegated to the status of a discarded concubine. It was only after my rebirth that the truth was revealed to me. In my previous life, my suffering stemmed from the fact that the White Lotus harbored a duplicitous nature. She feigned a demeanor of obedience and understanding. Yet, inwardly she mused, "This sister appears remarkably familiar. I recall seeing her at the apothecary in the west of the city, where she purchased a considerable quantity of contraceptive herbs. No wonder Zhaolang has never fathered any illegitimate offspring. It all makes sense now." Little did she know, I have been reborn, and this time I can hear her innermost thoughts. "One sister, please indulge in some tea. In the days to come, Yunar shall wholeheartedly serve you and the master." The woman before me possessed a delicate beauty, clad in the most fashionable water-red RU skirt of Xinjiang. Her bright, almond-shaped eyes paired with elegant autumn brows evoked an inexplicable sense of affection. However, her inner thoughts were far from the gentle facade she presented, revealing a hint of the duplicitous nature of a green tea girl mingled with a pure White Lotus. Sister seems strangely familiar, as if I have encountered her before. I remember now. I saw her last time at the apothecary in the west of the city, where she gathered numerous herbs. After her departure, I accidentally overheard the shopkeeper mentioning they were materials for brewing a contraceptive soup. No wonder the young master has yet to be blessed with children. It all makes sense now. I noticed the master stiffen, his expression darkening abruptly, and his hand clenched tightly on his thigh. This was unmistakably Lin Qiuyun's voice, yet she had not uttered a word. I felt as though I had stumbled upon a monumental secret. So that was it. No wonder my entire family had treated me like a thief in my past life. Fearful that I would harm Lin Qiuyun, the scent of the bulbile soup was intolerable to me, and when I instructed the household to cease its preparation, my mother-in-law perceived it as jealousy towards Lin Qiuyun's culinary prowess. The garments I purchased with my own funds were deemed unworthy the moment Lin Qiuyun merely complimented them, prompting Jiang Wenjiao to eagerly request them from me. My refusal was interpreted as me being an unreasonable mistress. Even the delicacies sent regularly from my tea house were appropriated by my own son to curry favor with Lin Qiuyun. A sudden wave of laughter washed over me. Though I could not express it, my past existence had been suffocating. My husband showed no affection, nor did my mother-in-law cherish me. As the primary wife, my monthly allowance was less than that of a secondary wife, and each quarter, my wardrobe consisted solely of Lin Qiuyun's leftover garments. Ultimately, I bore the unjust label of poisoning the Jiang family's offspring, not only being sent back to my natal family, but also dispatched to a temple to shave my head and become a nun. The art of flattery was the first lesson I learned in this second life. "Sister, please rise. Now that you have entered the door, we shall be family henceforth." I offered a few perfunctory pleasantries before intending to retreat to my own courtyard. Yet this green tea wench wore a pitiful expression. Was she perhaps blaming me? Thus, she was reluctant to accept the tea I offered? Alas, it is all my fault, having intruded upon the blossoming relationship between the young master and sister. Yet, Yuno cannot help but harbor feelings for the young master. I would even sacrifice my life for him. What is a little grievance compared to that? My mother-in-law scowled and pounded the table, pointing an accusatory finger at me. "You jealous woman, a primary wife must possess the dignity befitting her status. Drink your tea, without delay." Jiang Wenjiao nodded in agreement. On this joyous occasion, do not sulk before me. I ignored them and departed, knowing that accepting the tea would inevitably lead to troubles akin to my previous life, where this White Lotus would orchestrate a scene of scalding tea. Lin Qiuyun's eyes gleamed with delight, though her thoughts betrayed her. It is only natural that sister does not favor me. I owe her much. I do not seek great wealth or status. Even as a servant, I would be content, but after wandering for over a decade, I have finally found a home with the young master. I hope sister does not cast me aside. Jiang Wenjiao exchanged glances with my mother-in-law, assuring Lin Qiuyun, Do not worry. You are the young mistress I have brought in a palanquin. This shall be your home. Rest assured. Even if she does not drink your tea, it will change nothing." Lin Xiaoyun nodded with tear-filled eyes. I stood outside the hall, observing this touching scene of mutual affection, where they appeared as a family, while I remained an outsider. If I am indeed an outsider, then why should I care? I turned and walked away, allowing no trace of emotion to linger within me. My mother-in-law, witnessing my demeanor, stomped her foot in frustration, pointing at the back of my head in reproach. "Look at you. Where is the bearing of a primary wife? I truly regret allowing her into our home, a mere daughter of a salt merchant, thinking herself so grand." Lin Xiaoyun lamented inwardly. "Alas, it is all my fault. Sister must fear that I will usurp her position within the household. I desire nothing but a fraction of the young master's affection. I ask for no authority, no fine quarters, nothing at all." The heartfelt thoughts mingled with her wounded appearance, her dark eyes shimmering with unshed tears, as if she were on the verge of weeping, causing both mother and son to feel a pang of sympathy. Yet this was of no concern to me. In my previous life, I had been deceived by her facade, scalded by the tea she offered, and foolishly consoled her while insisting she move into my orchid courtyard. In this life, I would not be so naive. She could reside wherever she pleased, as long as she did not encroach upon my space. 2. Upon returning to the orchid courtyard, I meticulously organized and inventoried my dowry. It soon became evident that I had squandered over half of it. This family truly excelled in utilizing my dowry while frequently displaying disdain towards me. From this day forth, they shall not extract a single coin from me. I silently retrieved the items that Lin Xiaoyun had coveted in my past life, keeping only those adornments and garments suited to me, planning to don them starting tomorrow. I selected the finest fabrics and instructed my personal maid, Yin Bao, to take them to the tailor to be fashioned according to my measurements. As for the rest, Nanny, I kindly ask you to make a trip today and sell everything. Deposit the proceeds at the bank." The nanny, puzzled, inquired further, but I could not articulate my reasoning, merely expressing my fear that these bloodsuckers would demand each item from me one by one. It would be wiser to convert them into silver, taking only what I needed. Upon hearing this, the nanny and my 2 personal maids were visibly delighted. The primary mistress has finally seen the light. After 8 years of stagnation in the household, having lost nearly half my dowry, it was not too late to halt further losses. The nanny glanced at the sky. Dinner was approaching, yet fearing the passage of time, she enlisted several young servants from outside the residence to transport the remaining items to the Bai pawn shop. The Bai pawn shop was part of my dowry. Pledging my own belongings there would not lead to loss, and should they sell for a better price in the future, I might profit from it. As mealtime approached, my mother-in-law specifically sent Yao Mama to summon me, stating that since Lin Xiaoyun had entered the household, we should dine together as a family. I scoffed. Who considered them family? In the 8 years since I entered, barring the first year, I had dined in my own small kitchen. My mother-in-law rarely sought me out without purpose, and it seemed they required my financial contributions. I could surmise their intentions. So I instructed Jin Bao to bring the household's accounts for any necessary purposes. As I anticipated, Jiang Wenjiao and my mother-in-law requested that I prepare several garments for Lin Xiaoyun and procure some jewelry, specifically the finest and most fashionable in Xingjing. Just like in my previous life, back then, I foolishly provided her with items from my dowry when I noticed the household was financially strained. But now, coincidentally, my dowry was depleted. I remained unperturbed. I was still quite hungry, and my priority was to eat first. Let us dine. We can discuss these matters afterward. I haven't eaten lunch today, and am quite famished. Is it reasonable to expect me to give without a meal? Jiang Wenjiao wore a slightly guilty expression, agreeing yes. Let us eat first. I made no pretense, and served myself a bowl of rice. My mother-in-law looked at me, somewhat disdainful, but she dared not utter a word. 3. Lin Xiaoyun was adept at playing the role. Knowing she had to cater to me, she unhesitatingly ladled a generous bowl of bole-bile soup for me. With utmost care, she called out, "Sister, please enjoy the soup." Her face was alight with anticipation, while her heart whispered, "Though sister may not favor me, I hold her in great affection. And I hope she will be the first to taste this soup I made with my own hands. Surely she will love it, for the young master enjoys it." And as husband and wife, their tastes must align, right? I even injured my hand while preparing this soup. I cast a glance at the greenish concoction, the foul odor assaulting my nostrils, causing my stomach to churn violently. I hastily declined, stating it was unnecessary and that they should keep it for themselves. Jiang Wenjiao's gaze instinctively flickered towards Lin Chuyun's snow-white wrist, where he indeed spotted a burn mark, filling his eyes with compassion. Angrily, he cast down his chopsticks, questioning her demeanor, for Yu was merely acting out of kindness. His mother shot him a warning glance, urging him to behave and enjoy the meal, perhaps fearing that he might refuse to bleed for her later. I ate in silence, my eyes fixated on the exquisite dishes before me. The flavors were delightful, prompting me to consume an additional bowl of rice. In stark contrast, Lin Chuyun seemed to only nibble on the greens, chewing each piece over a dozen times, appearing as if she were easily satisfied. Jiang Wenjiao, feeling a pang of sympathy, took the initiative to serve her 2 pieces of meat. Though she claimed to dislike it, her heart whispered, "Sister adores this meat. I shall leave it all for her." Yu has endured hardship for nearly 20 years, accustomed to wild vegetables. Jiang Wenjiao's face turned pale, and with a hint of irritation, he added more meat to her bowl, asserting that the Jiang family was not so impoverished as to let her go hungry. They could certainly afford the meat. Afterward, he cast a mournful glance my way, seemingly lamenting that I was indulging in the meat without considering his beloved White Lotus. I forced a smile, swallowing the last bite of rice along with my thoughts. Starting tomorrow, let us see how many more exquisite delicacies the Jiang family can afford. I replied with feigned innocence, "I apologize, dear sister, but I am allergic to beef and avoid it in my daily diet." My mother-in-law regarded me with a complex expression, sensing a change in me, silently pondering the veracity of my words. Upon reflection, I had indeed not touched any beef, and she chose not to comment further, merely advising the 2 of them to eat faster. Was she worried I would grow impatient and leave first? I had no intention of departing. Today, I was determined to tear away the Jiang family's veil of modesty. After the feast, Jiang Wenjiao could no longer contain himself and broached the topic he had raised before the meal. I sighed softly. The matter at hand was undoubtedly challenging. The master was preoccupied with official duties, oblivious to the household's dire financial straits. My mother-in-law was well aware of the circumstances, yet remained silent at this moment. Jiang Wenjiao exchanged a knowing glance with his mother, feigning disbelief. How could this be? Our Jiang family owns several shops. Surely we can manage to make a few garments or craft some jewelry. As the conversation unfolded, I summoned Jin Bao into the room. I placed the account books on the table and began to elaborate on the household situation. Half an hour later, Jiang Wenjiao's countenance resembled that of a corpse. I had embellished a bit, revealing that the master was unaware I had supplemented the dowry these past few years, and there would be no further funds to draw upon, necessitating a reduction in household expenditures. The wet nurse had returned some time ago, depositing items at the Bai family pawnshop and bringing back only 200 taels. Sensing an opportunity to feign poverty, she produced the 200 taels, stating, "I just saw the masters dining and didn't dare interrupt. This is the last of the money that the madam instructed me to pawn for the dowry." Jiang Wenjiao's mouth hung open in astonishment, contemplating whether the household expenses were truly so overwhelming. His gaze towards me grew intricate, but the words he had nearly spoken remained unvoiced. Lin Chuyun, silently observing from the side, aptly remarked, "Master, please do not put my sister in a difficult position. Yu has enough clothes to wear." Yet her heart mused, "It seems my sister despises me so much that she fabricates such lies to evade responsibility. After all, I am merely a lowly maid and must recognize my place. I have only worn those few outfits for 3 to 5 years. If they become worn, a simple patch would suffice." Upon hearing Lin Chuyun's thoughts, Jiang Wenjiao, casting aside his pride, directly requested the 200 taels from me to prepare Lin Chuyun's attire, promising to reimburse me for the dowry once his monthly salary arrived. To have the dowry repaid? I could hardly contain my elation. I eagerly accepted, bowing deeply to Jiang Wenjiao and my mother-in-law. They all exhaled in relief, astonished by my readiness to concede. Jiang Wenjiao, elated, praised my understanding nature. while my mother-in-law extolled my virtuous character and consideration. Once their joy subsided, I signaled to Jean Bao, "Quickly fetch the dowry account book. The master wishes to borrow from my dowry for Lin's attire, and it must be recorded." Jean Bao, delighted, produced another account book, retrieving a pen and inkstone, swiftly preparing to write as the servants outside gathered to eavesdrop. The trio of Bai Lian looked perplexed. Why was there a need to document this? Jiang Wenjiao leaned in, peering over my shoulder. I casually flipped through the thick ledger until halting at the final page, where every transaction was meticulously recorded: the date, time, location, items sold, and their intended purpose, all clear and comprehensible. I inwardly chuckled, grateful that Jean Bao had been astute enough to document everything beforehand. Jiang Wenjiao and my mother-in-law appeared ashen-faced, while I beamed with delight, adding the 200 taels to the ledger. Before Jiang Wenjiao could comprehend the situation, I thrust the inked pen into his hand, urging him to check for accuracy and, if all was well, to sign it. Jiang Wenjiao's expression was one of utter bewilderment. If he signed this, would it not mean that the previous dowry would be attributed to him? His hand trembled slightly as he grasped the pen, and I feigned surprise. Didn't he, the master, say he would reimburse my dowry? Have I misunderstood? Was there no intention to cover the previous expenses? Well then, I had assumed the master was unaware that I had covered the entire dowry, and upon learning this, he might feel it unseemly to utilize a woman as dowry. For should this become public knowledge, it would transform into a timeless jest, tarnishing the Jiang family's reputation. If that were the case, so be it. I would bear the loss, for who was I but the primary wife? It was only right to be understanding and accommodating, was it not? My words were delivered with deliberate ambiguity, causing Jiang Wenjiao's face to flush with embarrassment. I understood him well. He was the type to hold both the reins and the sword, publicly declaring he would not spend a woman's money, while secretly pilfering from my dowry and nitpicking my every action. My mother-in-law was somewhat better, occasionally gifting me small trinkets, a strategy of spending little to gain much, it seemed. Lin Chuyun, standing silently nearby, trembled with indignation upon witnessing me produce the dowry account. As fellow reincarnates, she understood I was merely putting on a performance and was aware that I still possessed a significant portion of my dowry. However, as a newly introduced maid, she could not brazenly accuse me of lying. That would be unreasonable and unwarranted. Thus, she feigned understanding, shedding a few tears as she knelt before me, saying, "Sister, please do not make it difficult for the master. Your needs no new clothes or jewelry. Do not trouble him for the money. Sister, truly, your family is the wealthiest merchant in the border town. How could you be so miserly, even reluctant to part with 200 taels? Alas, it is indeed your misfortune. Had her family been affluent, master and madam would not have to face such difficulty. Just look at that." This woman brewed a fine cup of tea. Jiang Wenjiao, ready to sign, was subtly swayed by her words, turning the blame toward her. My mother-in-law, having lived for decades, discerned the underlying tension. She believed I was upset with Jiang Wenjiao due to Lin Chuyun's presence. Setting aside other considerations, I had always been perceived as generous in her eyes. Thus, she jestingly remarked, "Lana, what is the matter? We are all family. Why must we distinguish between you and me? You have always been a sensible child."
Oh, how amusing.
Now I was considered sensible? Now we were one family? Since my rebirth, I had seen through the Jiang family's little schemes. How could I be easily hoodwinked? I smiled at my mother-in-law. "What do you mean? We are indeed one family, but it was the master who pledged to reimburse my dowry, not at the behest of the daughter-in-law. If I refused today, it would be disrespectful to the master, who values his reputation. He would never go back on his word. Moreover, even blood brothers meticulously settle accounts. My enduring friendship with the master has flourished over the years, now blossoming to a kinship akin to that of true siblings. We could lie side by side on the same bed without a hint of discomfort. Thus, it is only natural that we should clarify matters." After speaking, I cast a deliberate glance towards the door, subtly reminding them that the servants were still eavesdropping outside. Subsequently, I assisted Lin Chuyun to her feet, wearing an expression of understanding. "My dear sister, we are, after all, kin. Must we really engage in such formalities? By all accounts, You are also a distant cousin of my maternal family. I recall my father entrusted your family with a business venture. What was it now?
Yes.
It seems it was in silk weaving, with profits divided equally. Sister, you are truly frugal, given that your family is in the silk trade. How could you possibly lack for clothing? Seeing her about to protest, I interjected. Indeed. I remember now. Sister, you are a concubine's daughter. I had previously heard from my maternal relatives that your dowry was a mere 68 bundles. Compared to mine, that is somewhat lacking, though I find myself without a single bundle now. Observing the growing pallor of my mother-in-law's countenance, I felt an immense sense of delight. In my past life, I had known that before Lin Qiuyun was brought in, she had secretly hidden her dowry, crafting an image of a delicate, helpless flower who garnered the Zhaolang family's sympathy. Now, I had laid bare the truth in advance. Let us see how this green tea maiden responds. Jiang Wenjiao's expression shifted from dark to pale as he scrutinized Lin Qiuyun with a gaze filled with suspicion, seemingly awaiting an explanation. Lin Qiuyun's eyes flickered with a hint of malice. She must have harbored a deep-seated resentment towards me. She presumed I could not discern her thoughts. Feigning an air of hesitation. Internally, she mused, "It appears my sister remains blissfully unaware. As a concubine's daughter, I have endured humiliation from my legitimate mother since childhood. That dowry of 68 bundles was long since appropriated by her. Alas, I cannot let Zhaolang discover this. For, what if he were to confront my maternal family on my behalf?" Listening to Lin Qiuyun's innermost thoughts, Jiang Wenjiao's furrowed brow began to relax, and his heart swelled with pity for her. I smacked my thigh, feigning indignation. Could it be that your legitimate mother has treated you harshly? Has she deprived you of your dowry? This is intolerable. I shall write to my mother this very night, urging her to seek justice for you. Upon hearing this, Lin Qiuyun panicked, exclaiming, "No." Her once delicate and charming visage, now twisted with anxiety. Faced with the puzzled gazes of Jiang Wenjiao and my mother-in-law, she began to sob, asserting that since my sister was now aware, it was even more imperative not to take such action. Although my legitimate mother had indeed been excessive, she had, after all, raised me. Moreover, my father has his pride. Should this matter escalate, it would reflect poorly on all parties involved. Sister, your kindness is excessive. However, we cannot allow you to suffer such injustices alone. You must return to your legitimate mother and inform her that I inquired about your dowry, which you claim is being safeguarded by her. I shall compel you to retrieve it, visiting multiple times to ensure you recover at least a portion. Lin Qiuyun found herself at a loss. She could not fathom how I had grown so astute. Realizing there was no room left for deception, she reluctantly acquiesced. Seeing her at a disadvantage brought me immense satisfaction. I laughed heartily, saying, "In that case, shall we still borrow these 200 taels, dear sister? Your maternal home is far away, and the back and forth may consume time. It would be more prudent for the master to utilize it first and repay me once you retrieve your dowry. However, I doubt the master would wish to make use of your dowry, would he?" Provoked by my taunts, my mother-in-law could no longer bear to remain. Fearing that she would ultimately have to fill the void left by her inept son, she feigned weariness, stating, "You young ones should decide for yourselves. This old body needs to rest." With that, she allowed Mama Yu to assist her out of the dining hall. With my mother-in-law gone, the situation became increasingly favorable for me. Lin Qiuyun did not wish for the deficit of my dowry to fall upon Jiang Wenjiao's shoulders, as she still aspired to extract his salary in the future. Thus, she nonchalantly took the pen from Jiang Wenjiao's hand, asserting that it would be best not to trouble the master. She would devise a way to retrieve her dowry from her maternal home. "We shall not borrow these 200 taels, and I thank you for your kind intentions, dear sister." Having created such a ruckus without gaining any advantage, she naturally felt discontented. She then sought to pursue another idea. "Sister, do you perhaps have any seldom-worn garments to gift me?" I squinted and smiled, saying, "How could you wear what I no longer desire? It would be most unbecoming to speak of it." She hastily replied, "No matter, I do not mind." Internally, she pondered. Sister's dowry is substantial, while Zhaolang's salary is meager. It would take ages to repay, and I cannot let Zhaolang suffer. I shall refrain from new clothes and instead claim some of Sister's cast-offs to wear. Once the dowry is retrieved, I shall repay her a portion to ease Zhaolang's burdens. Her thoughts were indeed clever, and with just a few words, she managed to bring tears to Jiang Wenjiao's eyes, moved beyond measure.
Oh,
If that is the case, do not blame me for being impolite. I have come to understand, sister, that you are truly kind-hearted. Observing her intentions, it appears she seeks to save money to assist the master in his financial troubles. I must admit, I had been too narrow-minded. Sister is indeed a paragon of virtue among young ladies. I raised my thumb in admiration, placing the dowry accounts in her hands, declaring my utmost respect for her. Now, sister, please sign here. Lin Qiuyun found herself in a predicament. Refusing to sign would expose her hypocrisy. Yet signing would place her in a bind. Her innocent eyes sparkled with tears, her lips quivering. I patted her shoulder, saying, "Do not be overly agitated, dear sister. I understand your goodness. Quickly sign, so I may arrange for someone to deliver my old clothes to you." Lin Qiuyun glanced at Jiang Wenjiao, noting his silence. With gritted teeth and tears in her eyes, she said, "Then I must thank you, sister." With that, she prepared to sign. Jiang Wenjiao, unwilling to appear weak before his delicate flower, swiftly seized the pen from her hand and signed decisively. "Now, are you satisfied?" I was, indeed, elated, even yearning to return and celebrate. Did not the master himself declare he would compensate me for my dowry? Should I not inquire if you're content? Jiang Wenjiao's expression twisted in frustration. He had intended to say more, but I was uninterested in his words. Rising abruptly, I performed a courtesy, stating, "Today marks the wedding night of the master and sister, so I shall not intrude further." Having said that, I hastily departed his courtyard with my servants in tow. He gazed after my retreating figure, his heart a tumult of emotions, unable to articulate his feelings. In any case, the bridal chamber was no longer enticing to him. He managed to exchange a few words with Lin Qiuyun before retreating to the study. The following day, Lin Qiuyun deliberately donned a faded coat as she entered my courtyard. I immediately discerned her intent, to solicit clothing, perhaps even to seize an opportunity for something more. Indeed, upon meeting me, she fixated on the beaded hairpin atop my head, exclaiming, "Sister, you look splendid today. Alas, it is a pity that you were born with such exquisite grace. You hardly require such commonplace adornments. With this hairpin in place, it seems somewhat tacky." While she spoke these words, her heart was filled with thoughts of, "This hairpin is truly beautiful and undoubtedly expensive. How regrettable that it adorns the head of that wretched Bailon. How unworthy she is. She has always been foolish. Let me see how I can snatch this hairpin away. Good heavens, has she dropped all pretense now that there are no witnesses? Very well. Since she desires it so, I shall not grant her wish. Really? Then I shall not keep it." Lin Qiuyun's heart leapt with joy. What a fool. She truly intends to part with it? Ha ha, this will be a piece of cake. Just as she believed I would concede, I altered my expression, summoning Jinbao into the room and deftly placing the hairpin into her hair. "Since this hairpin is so tacky, it shall be gifted to the maid. Sisters like us, with such refined tastes, cannot wear such commonplace items." Jinbao suppressed a smile, thanking me profusely for the gift, promising to cherish it well. Lin Qiuyun was left dumbfounded, staring at the hairpin atop Jinbao's head, unable to regain her composure. Anger and hatred surged within her. How infuriating. This wretched girl would rather give the hairpin to a servant than to me. Wait, could it be she can hear my thoughts? I must test this. All her musings were heard by me, yet I feigned ignorance, pretending not to have overheard. She tentatively probed, "Sister, why do you not answer the question I just asked?" I feigned confusion, "Huh? Did you speak just now? Did you not say that this hairpin is unworthy of me? What else did you say?" Upon hearing my response, she seemed reassured. I thought to myself, how could this foolish girl possibly hear? She is clearly a spendthrift. Last night's incident was merely coincidental with her dim-wittedness. It is impossible for her to have any ulterior motives. She then reverted to her usual guise of understanding, as if to say, "Look at my foolish mind. I've even muddled my memories. By the way, sister, did you not say yesterday that you would gift me some clothes?" She was still reveling in her own cleverness. "I am eager to see what kind of garments this wretched person will give me. If you dare to present me with inferior goods, I shall certainly alert the master to your malfeasance. Truly, one can hardly believe such audacity. Who could utter such words and still claim to be understanding? To demand my garments and then scheme against me. How venomous. No, no. The heart of a green TBTCH is the most poisonous of all. Just wait and see if you have the chance to wear my clothes. If you manage to sneak away with even one piece, I shall concede defeat to Bailon. I beckon to Yin Bao. Hurry, go see if my new garments are ready. Bring them for Lin Xiaonyang to select. After all, we are sisters. How could I bear to let my own sister wear my old clothes? Yin Bao hurriedly replied, They were delivered today. I shall fetch them at once. In no time, a dozen exquisite garments of various styles were brought forth. Clever Yin Bao had chosen only the fitted ones, not a single loose piece among them. I casually picked up a shimmering brocade garment, draping it over her to gauge its fit. This one is perfect for you, sister. Do try it on. Lin Xiaoyun beamed with delight, unable to contain her joy. Oh, sister, you are too kind. This dress would surely be wasted on me. You should keep it for yourself. What a truly shameless person she is. If you do not desire it, why clutch it so tightly? In my past life, I would have insisted on giving it to her regardless of her protests. But in this life, for words, not a chance. I held the garment against her again. And she said, Then let us try a different one. Upon hearing this, Yin Bao cleverly took the dress from my hands and swiftly set it aside. Lin Xiaoyun was filled with regret. Look at my tongue. Why must I be so shameless? If someone offers, just try it on. Why bother with pleasantries? Just try the next set directly. This time, I selected a narrow-sleeved coat made of shoe brocade, adorned with exquisite silk embroidery depicting lavish peonies. At first glance, it appeared ordinary, but upon closer inspection, it was truly remarkable. There were likely few such pieces in Shengjing. Lin Xiaoyun's eyes widened with disbelief, thinking, This foolish girl must not appreciate its worth. To think she would offer me this. In terms of craftsmanship, this piece is indeed more valuable. This garment suited her. Its elegant color and the shoe brocade not being overly precious, so I encouraged her to try it on. As she busied herself with the dressing, Jiang Wenjiao, having concluded his court duties, came seeking her. What are you two up to? I silently rolled my eyes at him. Could he not see? Lin Xiaoyun, however, affected a delicate demeanor, leaning in. Master has arrived. Come, see, sister has gifted me a plethora of fine clothes. Good heavens! Was she attempting to use Jiang Wenjiao to whisk away my collection? Just as she finished speaking, her inner thoughts betrayed her. Alas, sister is truly wasteful, such fine garments. Discarded simply for being ill-fitting. If I hadn't arrived at such a fortunate moment, they would have been squandered. Jiang Wenjiao, having overheard her thoughts, regarded me with displeasure. I suppose you do not fancy these garments either. Then let them all go to Yun. She is slender and should fit them all. I merely chuckled at his words. How disheartening it was to hear him say such things. These were all new garments I had recently commissioned, each of the finest fabric, and I cherished them dearly. How could they be perceived as inferior goods intended for my sister? If she did not want them, so be it. I would keep them for myself. With that, I feigned an intention to reclaim the garments. Lin Xiaoyun panicked, her expression quite dramatic. She clung tightly to the clothes. Oh no, sister, I adore them, truly. Jiang, how could you expose her thoughts in front of others? Is this not a slap in Sister S' face? I might forgo the clothes, but Sister S' reputation is paramount. Jiang Wenjiao appeared somewhat melancholic, seeing Lin Xiaoyun's evident affection for the garments. He awkwardly remarked, Do not be upset. It is I who failed to recognize their value. This couple's performance was quite entertaining to me. Let us see how long they can keep up the pretense. Very well. Since I see my sister likes them, let her choose more, try them on, and if they fit, she may take them all. My generosity seemed to ease Jiang Wenjiao's discomfort somewhat, and he casually selected 7 or 8 of the finest fabrics and most fashionable styles for Lin Xiaoyun. These pieces will suit Yun perfectly. Do try them on. Lin Xiaoyun beamed with joy, eagerly pulling one of the garments onto herself. Yet alas, it would not fit. The narrow-sleeved coat was too snug. She adored this piece and, not wishing to part with it, removed her old garment right in front of Jiang Wenjiao. But sadly, it still would not fit. Her face reddened with embarrassment as she tried another. Oh dear, this one is too tight in the shoulders. She switched to a flowery skirt, but the waist was too small. Another dress, none fit her at all. A half-hour passed, and Lin Chuyin began to suspect she had gained weight, tentatively suggesting, "Could the tailor have miscalculated my measurements? How could I not fit into any of these?" Jiang Wenjiao was conflicted, having just observed Lin Chuyin struggling with the garments. Her physical shortcomings laid bare. It was not that Lin Chuyin had a poor figure, but rather that my housekeeper had lost considerable weight in recent years. And I had always preferred looser clothing, making it less obvious to others. Lin Chuyin felt disgruntled and sought to shift the blame onto me. Sister cannot possibly have commissioned such small sizes to humiliate me, could she? This is just too wasteful. But would I indulge you? Absolutely not. I promptly selected a piece and effortlessly donned it, my figure showcased splendidly. I realized the truth. It was my sister, who was too plump to fit into these clothes. Look at how perfectly it suited me. What a shame. If only she had come sooner, I could have taken her measurements for these garments. Alas, I would have to keep them for myself. Lin Chuyin seethed with jealousy, yet still did not wish to concede defeat. It need not be so complicated. The narrow-sleeved coat could be taken back and altered. Simply remove the sleeves and adjust the hem, and it would become a fitting garment. She made to retrieve the coat. I swiftly seized it, thinking how wasteful it would be. The embroidery on this shoe brocade was genuine silk. Does she not realize how much it would cost to alter both sleeves? Furthermore, given its style and fabric, it would not be suitable as a coat heart. It is better not to squander it. Lin Chuyin looked towards Jiang Wenjiao, seeking his assistance. Jiang Wenjiao had been watching for some time, observing how Lin Chuyin could not fit into any of the pieces, while I slipped into mine with ease. The stark contrast led him to question Lin Chuyin's figure. In Shengjing, slenderness was considered beauty, and Jiang Wenjiao certainly preferred the slim. In that moment, Lin Chuyin's delicate image shattered. He also began to recognize the problem. Earlier, Lin Chuyin had thought these garments unworthy of her. Now it was evident that they were not ill-fitting at all. He felt somewhat vexed and began to scrutinize Lin Chuyin more seriously. After a long pause, he remarked blandly, "You are indeed overweight. If they do not fit, then so be it."
Ha ha ha.
I nearly burst into laughter, thinking they were so enamored with each other, yet here they were, merely quarreling over a slight difference in physique. And this was only their second day of marriage. Had the disdain already begun? Jiang Wenjiao's words left Lin Chuyin with little choice but to follow him dutifully, her heart heavy as she trailed behind. As they walked, I discerned her inner turmoil. Oh, woe is me. I am not at all plump. And Zhaolang has touched me before. How could he not know? Is he truly disdainful of me? Alas, my heart is so devoted, yet it was misplaced. Jiang Wenjiao appeared somewhat moved, yet he offered her no consolation. How revolting! Thankfully, mealtime had not yet arrived. Otherwise, I might have found it impossible to eat. In the aftermath of that day, Lin Chuyin rarely troubled me, perhaps having been advised by Jiang Wenjiao to leave me be, to maintain a peaceful coexistence. Strangely, Jiang Wenjiao himself began visiting Orchid Garden with increasing frequency, arriving every few days under various pretexts. Most often, he claimed to come for a meal. I jested inwardly. I am no fool. Why should I allow him to partake of my provisions? My dowry has yet to be returned. Anticipating his visit today, I instructed the kitchen to prepare only 2 simple vegetable dishes and a plate of scallion tofu. Upon seeing the meager spread, his expression darkened. "Why have you arranged such a sparse meal?" he demanded. I feigned concern. Xiango has reached the age of learning. I am considering hiring a tutor for him. Yet my finances are limited, and I dare not waste. Mention of money caused Jiang Wenjiao's countenance to sour. "Isn't there still the shop's revenue?" he retorted. "Xiange is the sole heir of the Jiang family. How could you expect to use your dowry?" "Dear sir," I replied, "you truly do not understand the burdens of managing a household. I nearly forgot. In a few days, the household must distribute monthly payments and rations to the servants. The shop's earnings will surely fall short. And let us not forget about Xiaonyang, who will soon give birth. Look how thin she has become. It worries me greatly." Hearing this, Jiang Wenjiao's pride faltered. "I shall think of a way to supplement your dowry," he proclaimed. Such words were music to my ears. If he could indeed replenish my dowry, then all would be well. True to his word, within 3 days, he had sent several boxes filled with items from my dowry list. Upon opening them, I discovered they were indeed the very items that my mother-in-law and the household had pilfered. What audacity to beg for goods from a woman! Jean Bao promptly retrieved the accounts, meticulously checking them against the list and organizing the records. Following customary procedure, the valuables were identified, and a wet nurse was dispatched to transport them to the Bai family pawnshop, ostensibly to exchange for silver. Such days were indeed comfortable. I often inspected the shop while devoting the rest of my time to my own pleasures. I sought neither favor nor to flatter, but rather to indulge myself. As the day for the monthly distribution of silver and rations approached, I calculated the household's income and found it woefully inadequate for our expenses. What to do? Naturally, I would spend only what was necessary. I could not possibly supplement it further myself. My father-in-law, a man of military descent, is the only honest and upright individual in this duke's household. He rarely resides within the estate, which is why I chose this day to visit the tranquil courtyard, the domain of my father-in-law and mother-in-law. Upon seeing me, my mother-in-law's expression soured. "What brings you here? Is there a matter to discuss?" I was unconcerned with her displeasure. I sought only to resolve the issue of the monthly payments. "Mother," I began, "the officials have recently advocated for frugality, yet our household expenditures far exceed our income. I wish to reduce our expenses, thereby balancing our finances and preserving our dignity in the eyes of the officials." Had my father-in-law not been present, my mother-in-law would have surely attempted to manipulate me into covering the costs myself. But I had timed my visit deliberately. Hearing my proposal, my father-in-law's face brightened. "Excellent. Launer has indeed become much more prudent, showing concern for state affairs and alleviating the burdens of the officials. This matter is approved." My mother-in-law's expression darkened, but with my father-in-law's endorsement, she could not object, leaving the matter in my hands. With their consent, I took charge. The monthly payments would remain unchanged, but the rations would be halved. To my surprise, this still left us with a surplus. As Xiaonyang was 8 months pregnant, I, as the matriarch, could not allow her to go hungry, so I purchased nourishing supplements with the surplus and arranged for them to be sent to her. Reflecting on Xiaonyang, I recalled that in my previous life, she had suffered a tragic fate of losing both herself and her child during the 9th month. I had been wrongfully accused of harming her and the Zhang lineage, ultimately being sent back to my family. To prevent such a calamity from recurring, I had insisted she move into my quarters, ensuring her safety under my watchful eye. Yet, fate is unpredictable. To my shock, Xiaonyang went into premature labor.
That day,
I had instructed Yin Bao to prepare bird's nest soup for her. After she consumed it, she soon complained of abdominal pain. When I accompanied others to check on her, I found her face pale and bloodied, reminiscent of the horrors of my past life. I was bewildered. How could this misfortune strike again, and even earlier than before? There is an old adage: one lives through the 7th month, but not the 8th. This was precisely 8 months, and my heart raced with anxiety. It was not fear of blame that troubled me, for I had long resigned myself to the possibility of Jiang Wenjiao abandoning me. Rather, my concern stemmed from my empathy towards another woman in distress. I recalled that in my previous life, the midwife I had prepaid had not arrived. It was Lin Shuyun who had suggested that Mama Zhou, whom she had brought, would assist with the delivery. I had been exceedingly grateful at the time. However, later, when Xiaonyang cried out in labor throughout the night, the child was found to be in a perilous position, and Mama Zhou had declared there was no hope, abandoning the case entirely. By the time I found another midwife, it was too late. The child was stillborn, and Xiaonyang was left in a critical state. Ultimately, an uninvited doctor claimed that her demise was due to consuming improper food, and I bore the brunt of blame for this tragedy. Now, reflecting upon it, it was undoubtedly Lin Shuyun's machinations. With the lessons learned from my previous life, I approached the situation with newfound composure. I instructed Jin Bao to seek out the midwife I had previously employed, the very one who had shaken her head and declared it was too late to save Xiaonyang. I also sent Yin Bao with a pouch of silver to find Dr. Yu at the Holian Hall in the southern city, the very physician who had stopped my excessive bleeding when I gave birth to Xianga. Within moments, he had managed to halt the hemorrhaging. Lastly, I had the wet nurse personally supervise the servants in boiling water, cutting cloth, and preparing nutritious liquids to replenish lost strength. To err on the side of caution, I dispatched a young servant to summon my father-in-law to request he go to the palace for the imperial physician. Yet, despite taking these precautions, a deep unease lingered within me. Something felt amiss, as if I had overlooked a critical detail. The anguished cries from within reached my ears, sending my heart racing. At that moment, Zhang Wenjiao and Lin Qiuyun arrived. My heart sank. The simultaneous appearance of these two could bode no good. Indeed, Lin Qiuyun asserted that Mama Zhou, whom she had brought from her family, would attend the delivery, claiming she was a midwife. Given the lessons of my past, I was resolute in preventing her entrance. No need, I stated firmly. Mama Zhou is not a qualified midwife. I have already sent for one, and she will arrive shortly. Though Lin Qiuyun feigned agreement, her thoughts betrayed her. Sister An's cries are so heart-wrenching. She must be in great pain. I wonder what she thinks, refusing to let Mama Zhou enter. What if something were to happen inside? Zhang Wenjiao, being a layman in such matters, was oblivious. Hearing Lin Qiuyun's thoughts, he became agitated and shouted at me, "Bai Lan. This is the heir of the Jiang family. Let Mama Zhou into check." What a fool he was. Yet, as the lord of the household, I could not dare defy him. I collected my thoughts and calmly responded, "My lord, I can permit Mama Zhou to enter. But should anything happen to Xiaonyang during the delivery, she will not escape responsibility." This statement serves as a warning to Mother Zhou. After speaking, I fixed my gaze on Zhang Wenjiao's eyes and sternly declared, "Mother Zhou, you may enter and take a look, but should you recklessly assist in the delivery, the master will not spare you." Upon hearing this, Mother Zhou's expression darkened. However, without further ado, I grasped her hand and led her into the delivery room. This abrupt action left her bewildered, for she could hardly fathom that I, the esteemed matriarch, would step into the inner sanctum of a lesser woman's childbirth. Once the door was closed, a sense of tranquility enveloped me. Although I could not discern what Lin Qiuyun was saying outside, I could hear her unspoken thoughts. "Oh dear. Why has my sister entered as well? She has no experience in childbirth. Isn't she just complicating matters? What if she inadvertently hinders the process?" Before Zhang Wenjiao could utter a word, I swung open the door, remaining merely an observer, wary of those who might not act with propriety. After saying this, I closed the door again and leaned in closer to Mother Zhou, whispering, "Do not think for a moment that I am unaware of your intentions.
Today,
I shall be watching closely. Should you dare to act in defiance, I will ensure you face the consequences." Mother Zhou, being merely a servant, felt a surge of fear at my words. In my presence, she dared not act with any insolence and instead turned her attention to Xiaonyang's condition. After assessing the situation, she knelt beside me and quietly implored, "Lady, please spare me. I cannot handle this situation. Having given birth myself, I understood that Xiaonyang was merely in the early stages of labor. Thus, I did not press her, as she was merely reiterating Lin Qiuyun's earlier instructions. I smirked, acknowledging that at least Mother Zhou was perceptive. "Then you shall wait outside and explain to the master." Upon hearing this, Mother Zhou, quite understandingly, exited the delivery room, fabricating an excuse that she was unable to assist. Lin Qiuyun, upon hearing this, presumed it was akin to the previous life, where the child's feet presented first, and her heart swelled with pride. I remained silent, taking in Xiaonyang's hand, assuring her, "Fear not. This time, I will ensure both you and your child emerge safe and sound." My words were somewhat nonsensical, and Xiaonyang found them peculiar. After all, she had yet to give birth. How could she be certain it would be a boy? Though words may deceive, the eyes will always convey the truth. And Xiaonyang saw sincerity and reassurance reflected in my gaze. She nodded, which brought me a sense of comfort. At the very least, someone believed in me. Jin Bao, living up to expectations, promptly summoned the midwife, announcing her arrival as she entered the orchid courtyard with great enthusiasm. After offering a few words of comfort to Xiaonyang, I opened the door and quietly slipped a silver note into the midwife's hand, insisting on the safety of both mother and child. Upon witnessing my generosity, the midwife was overjoyed, quickly tucking the note into her sleeve, assuring me, "Rest easy, my lady. I shall exert every effort to assist. At this moment, the matriarch arrived rather belatedly. Given the Zhang family's scant offspring, she was particularly invested in this child. When Lin Qiuyun saw her arrival, she immediately thought, I wonder how sister is faring? I have arranged food for her. Surely, it will provide her with strength. No sooner had she finished her thought than a maidservant approached, carrying bowls of food to be offered to Xiaonyang. The matriarch praised Lin Qiuyun for her thoughtfulness. However, upon inspecting the offerings, I was appalled to find them laden with rich and greasy dishes. Who among postpartum women could possibly consume such fare? The cleansed midwife chastised me for this. Feeling wronged, I thought, I shall not bear this blame. With that, I threw the entire tray of food out, declaring, how could a new mother possibly have the strength to eat this? Nurse, bring in some nourishing broth. Hearing my voice and witnessing my actions, the matriarch felt a surge of discontent. Meanwhile, Lin Qiuyun, realizing her intentions had been exposed, began to think, I am but a newcomer and have never borne a child. How could I know these dishes are unsuitable for a new mother? Thankfully, sister prepared some broth. As she spoke, her eyes glinted with malice. Yet the matriarch and Zhang Wenjiao were too preoccupied to notice her. A short while later, the nurse brought in the nourishing broth. I took the spoon and began to feed it to Xiaonyang, saying, I know you are in pain, but for the sake of your child, you must persevere. Drink this to gain strength. Hearing my words, and Xiaonyang indeed began to sip, and soon consumed a bowl. Seizing the moment, I took out the precious wild ginseng I had prepared, slicing a few pieces to offer to Xiaonyang, saying, place this beneath your tongue. Soon you will find your strength returning. Without hesitation, she accepted it, having consumed the broth and imbibed the ginseng. And Xiaonyang finally gathered enough strength for the midwife to assist in the delivery. Do not worry, just follow my instructions and exert yourself, I urged her. Half an hour later, the child finally began to emerge. However, it was the feet that appeared first, just as in my previous life. My heart raced with panic, for this often heralds a tragic outcome. Fortunately, the midwife appeared composed and calmly reassured, it's a boy. Dear, relax, I will guide you to exert more effort. With that, she washed her hands again, firmly grasped the tiny feet, and began to massage in Xiaonyang's abdomen. At that moment, I overheard Lin Qiuyun's thoughts outside. Could my sister have bought abortifacient soup beforehand? Are they conspiring with the midwife to harm Xiaonyang? In the delivery room, and Xiaonyang, feeling a bit more comfortable from the midwife's ministrations, ceased her loud cries. However, outside, the matriarch and Zhang Wenjiao were growing increasingly anxious, convinced I intended to do something to Xiaonyang. Zhang Wenjiao summoned several servants to burst in and drag me out.
Ha!
The best midwife in Shengjing is here, and Xiaonyang and her child shall surely be safe. I feared nothing. Moreover, the doctors I had summoned were on their way. Yet Lin Qiuyun was oblivious to all this, insisting she feared unforeseen circumstances and had already summoned a physician. Let her gloat for now, I thought. Indeed, while the delivery was underway, a servant entered, carrying the remnants of Xiaonyang's afternoon delicacies, kneeling before the matriarch to seek her guidance. The physician, putting on an act, examined the situation and declared that the presence of saffron in the delicacies had caused Xiaonyang's premature labor. The matriarch fumed with rage and ordered me to kneel. Had I been the person I once was, I would have complied. But I was no longer that person. I simply stated, on what grounds? The matriarch's face flushed with anger. Then Lin Qiuyun's thoughts echoed in my mind, and Xiaonyang has been residing in my sister's quarters these past few days. I trust her completely. She would never harm Xiaonyang. But what if Xiaonyang's diet is under my sister's purview? What should I do? Should I speak up? I felt a cold laugh escape my lips. This vile creature, this duplicitous harlot, was insinuating that I had plotted against Xiaonyang. Before I could defend myself, Zhang Wenjiao began to berate me as a vixen and ordered my confinement in the woodshed. As I met Lin Qiuyun's shifty gaze, my anger surged, and as I contemplated the events about to unfold, I unleashed a torrent of resentment accumulated over 2 lifetimes. Although I had no desire to remain in this household, I could not allow my reputation to be tarnished. For reasons unknown, I felt a sudden surge of strength, breaking free from the grasp of the servants, my back straightening defiantly.
Jiang Wenjiao.
You despicable wretch. I shall demand a divorce. Before I could finish my sentence, the midwife successfully positioned the baby, and the child was born without complication. A piercing cry resonated through the air. The midwife swiftly tended to the newborn, handing the child to another before bursting through the door, exclaiming, "It's a boy. Both mother and child are safe." Coincidentally, just as she spoke, my father-in-law entered the orchid courtyard with the royal physician. "Quickly, let Dr. Zhang take a look." Silver Bao also arrived with Dr. Yu. Hearing this, the servants who had been restraining me released their hold, bewildered about what to do next. The various masters in the courtyard surrounded the physician as he entered the delivery room. After a considerable wait, the physician frowned and declared, "The mother consumed the wrong food, resulting in premature labor. It seems she will need to take special care in raising the child." Behind him, Dr. Yu, whom I had invited, confirmed the statement, stating that indeed, she had eaten the wrong food. Now, I was undeniably entangled in this matter. However, this shall be the end of my ties with the Jiang family. As Jiang Wenjiao bid farewell to the imperial physician and the doctor, he gathered everyone except for Xiaonyang. However, in a twist of fate, I found myself treated as a criminal, pinned to the ground by a servant. He had nearly concluded that I was the one who had poisoned Xiaonyang. "You venomous woman! Pray tell, what have you recently fed Xiaonyang?" A faint smile graced my lips as I retorted, as the mistress of the household, "Is it wrong for me to send some tonics to the young ladies? Setting aside whether others have meddled, given my status, why would I resort to such despicable means? Moreover, I am not foolish enough to act under everyone's watchful eyes. On what grounds do you restrain me? If the master does not believe me, then let him report to the authorities. Let us trace it back to the source." Upon hearing my intention to report to the authorities, Lin Qiuyun grew anxious, for she had previously been certain that I, being a person who valued my reputation, would never take such a step. But I had been reborn. Fear of death held no sway over me. What did I have to lose? My words caused Jiang Wenjiao to hesitate. While I could afford to disregard my own face, he still cared for his reputation, and such matters must not be made public. I had no intention of exposing Lin Qiuyun's conspiracy. All I desired was to leave the Jiang family. Perhaps this was an opportunity. Listening to my declaration, Jiang Wenjiao faltered, "For family disgrace must not be aired. I shall uncover the truth of today's events. There is no need to report to the authorities." I gave him a disdainful smile and remarked, "Even so, there is no need for an investigation. Regardless of the outcome, you all believe I am the culprit. It would be better to divorce me. If I, by law, were to frown even slightly, it would be deemed my defeat." As soon as I finished speaking, I heard Lin Qiuyun's inner voice. "Sister is indeed ruthless, just as she has always been. I recall when we played together as children, she felt I was favored more than her and nearly drowned me. I thought she would mature and not behave so thoughtlessly, yet she continues to treat human life as worthless." Upon hearing this, both Jiang Wenjiao and my mother-in-law sensed something amiss, increasingly convinced that I was involved in this affair. However, they could not produce evidence to substantiate their claims against me, and thus contemplated fabricating a reason to divorce me. After all, in their eyes, I was a venomous woman. As the night wore on, I knelt for a prolonged period before rising on my own. Since the master did not trust me, then let us part ways. Now that Xiaonyang and her child are safe, the outcome is no different. I can accept this baseless accusation, and I am willing to leave. Let us divorce. I spoke with unwavering determination, leaving Jiang Wenjiao momentarily in a daze. At that instant, he sensed that I was not lying. Yet Lin Qiuyun's inner voice urged, "Zhaolang is simply too soft-hearted. Even after sister has harmed her offspring, he still does not take action. If sister stays, I fear for the child's life." Had she voiced this publicly, Jiang Wenjiao would have surely dismissed it and investigated. But the cleverness lay in the fact that this was Lin Qiuyun's inner thought, and every shadowy piece of evidence seemed to point towards me, solidifying Jiang Wenjiao's conviction. Yet, without evidence and with none of the 7 grounds for divorce applicable to me, he had no basis to cast me aside. He had no basis, but I could create one. "Master, you surely believe I harmed Xiaonyang, do you not? Yet I must say, I did not harm her, and you have found no evidence, correct?" Jiang Wenjiao remained silent, for my words held no flaw. In the end, he declared, I shall give you one more chance to explain.
Ha! Why should I?
I found his words repulsive and retorted, I require no chance to explain. If you do not trust me, then let us part ways. With no recourse, Jiang Wenjiao's pride was wounded, and fearing I might take action against his child in the future, he agreed to my proposal. If you are so obstinate, then do not regret it. As he spoke, Jiang Wenjiao anticipated that I would regret my decision, as I had done in the past. To his surprise, not only did I not lament, but my eyes curved into crescent shapes, seemingly delighted at the prospect of parting. It felt as though something had lodged itself in his chest, suffocating him, and he asked, I ask you one last time, do you truly wish to part ways? Seeing his hesitation, Lin Qiuyun's eyes flashed with jealousy. Was he reluctant? That simply would not do. She still coveted my position as mistress. Internally, she thought, Zhaolang shares a deep bond with sister. He surely is loath to part with her. Yet sister is ruthless. And if the master cannot make a decisive choice, the child may not survive. What if I too remain childless? What then? She is still my sister. I truly do not wish for her to become a discarded wife. However, given all the heinous acts sister has committed, it is a stroke of luck that Zhaolang does not abandon her. Even if we part, it is a merciful act toward her. I smiled, relishing the unfolding drama. Why is the master still hesitating? Are you reluctant to part with me? Or do you fear I will demand my dowry back upon our divorce? Jiang Wenjiao, initially hesitant, found my provocation igniting a mix of shame and anger upon his face. Bring me paper, ink, and brush. Lin Qiuyun remained still, signaling a maid nearby. And in no time, the items were presented. Feigning concern, Lin Qiuyun advised, Sister, do not be foolish. Kneel and apologize to the master, and this matter will be laid to rest. After so many years of marriage, the master surely would not make things difficult for you. I chose to ignore her, casting her a disdainful glance as I urged Jiang Wenjiao to write quickly. His face contorted as if he had consumed something foul, yet his previously sluggish pace quickened considerably. Once he finished drafting the divorce decree, I eagerly pressed my handprint upon it, finally feeling a sense of relief. Tomorrow, I would depart this household and embark on my own carefree life. Oh no, I wished to remain far from this duke's residence for as long as possible. I promptly instructed Jinbao and Yinbao to prepare my belongings, declaring that we would leave today. Initially, Jinbao and Yinbao were somewhat saddened and furious over the matter. But seeing my liberated demeanor, they resolved that even in departure, they would do so with dignity. Young miss, we have already prepared everything. Indeed, I was now divorced, no longer the mistress, but simply the young lady. Observing my joyous countenance, Jiang Wenjiao felt a heaviness in his heart, memories of our past flooding back, the fond recollections suddenly multiplying. His lips parted as if to say something, yet I had no desire to listen. I quickly interjected, Rest assured, Master Jiang. I will not rush you for my dowry, but it cannot be delayed for too long. I shall send someone each month to collect what is owed. With that, I turned away swiftly, vanishing from his sight. A gentle breeze rustled as he gazed at my retreating figure, murmuring, She departs with such finality. Lin Qiuyun hastily leaned against him. Zhaolang, do not be disheartened. Whatever you choose, Yunar will support you. You will have me by your side. For reasons unknown. On other occasions, Lin Qiuyun's understanding demeanor had pleased him, but today, he found it somewhat affected. He pushed her away, stating, Today, let me be alone for a while. That very night, I moved out of the Duke's residence. I left nothing behind from when I had married in. Every item my family had provided was taken. Even the well my brother had dug for me was filled in. The blue bricks embedded in the courtyard were dug up piece by piece. The majority of the servants were those I had brought with me, so it was only natural they would accompany me, ensuring I had ample assistance. As for where I would reside, I had long made plans. I had purchased a spacious courtyard house in the northern part of the city, farthest from the Duke's residence, which had already been prepared for my arrival. This course of action was also to prevent any impact on my younger siblings' marriages upon returning to my family. After all, I would be subject to scrutiny. So it was better for only me to bear the brunt of judgment. Having been reborn, How could I falter over such a minor setback? As I prepared to depart, Lin Qiuyun, in a fit of candor, discarded her pretense. Under the guise of bidding me farewell, she pulled me aside to share some intimate words. Ah, particularly intimate. She laughed with an almost mad glee. My dear sister, who would have thought? You are about to leave in such a disheartened manner. Unaware that I am favored by fate, possessing a unique skill that you cannot rival. Do not be too sorrowful. In the future, I shall certainly return to see how you fare, and if your circumstances are wanting, perhaps I might bestow upon you some assistance. I merely smiled faintly and remarked, How do you know that I am not the favored one? That man is nothing but refuse, perfectly suited to be cast aside to you. Should I not see the two of you again, I dare say I could enjoy a few more bowls of rice. Yin Bao, incensed by her arrogance, brandished a broom as if to strike her, but I swiftly intervened. No, that broom can still serve its purpose. Should you strike her, it would become sullied. As I exited the Duke's residence, I felt an exhilarating lightness. Casting a glance back at this place that had consumed 8 years of my life, I was filled with profound reflections. How I wished I could have been reborn 8 years earlier. There were 2 others accompanying me to see me off, my biological son and the frail Xiaonyang, who was forcing herself to rise from her sickbed. And Xiaonyang's eyes were red with tears, filled with pity for me. I understood that this was not her fault. She was merely a wretched woman deceived by Jiang Wenjiao. I urged her not to cry, to restore her health and escape this sea of suffering as soon as possible. If she had nowhere to go, she could always seek me out. My son, however, gleefully proclaimed that he would soon call Lin Qiuyun mother. I could not muster even the energy to touch him. Very well, live well with your dear mother, and be sure not to seek me out in the future. With that, I departed without a backward glance. In the days that followed, apart from sending Jin Bao to the Duke's residence to collect debts at the end of each month, I had little to no contact with the Zhang family. Over 2 years, I reclaimed the dowry I had once provided. I devoted all my thoughts to my business, not only managing my estates and shops with great success but also opening many more, earning money hand over fist. Years later, while inspecting a tea shop, I happened upon a storyteller recounting the tale of the Zhang family. The Duke had passed away, and Jiang Wenjiao was unable to inherit the title. He had incurred the wrath of the current top scholar by forcibly seizing virtuous women. Officials in the court publicly denounced him, collectively petitioning for his impeachment. He was stripped of his position and now faced dire poverty. Even more absurdly, the very Lin Qiuyun, who had loved him to the point of obsession, had absconded with her child, taking whatever money she could muster, while the other concubines gradually departed the estate. And Xiaonyang proved to be the most conscientious of them all, dividing her savings in half with Jiang Wenjiao to obtain a letter of separation. She did not come looking for me, perhaps out of embarrassment. However, my estranged son did seek me out, kneeling before me in tears, confessing his wrongs. When I showed no sympathy, he resorted to moral coercion, claiming he was flesh of my flesh and that I had to take responsibility. I was no saint, nor did I wish to assume the role of a benevolent deity. I merely provided him with some provisions, for while the flesh of a pig could still be cooked and consumed, the flesh that fell from me was indeed of no use. He returned several times, yet finding him bothersome, I decided to relocate and sold my previous residence. After that, I never saw him again. Later, I heard that Jiang Wenjiao had died, alone and forsaken, without a single attendant by his side, passing into oblivion, discovered only when a creditor came to collect debts. Lin Qiuyun met a similarly unfortunate fate. Her son, Yugur, became embroiled in a theft and, in a quarrel, fatally stabbed someone, landing himself in prison. She exhausted her savings but could not gather enough to secure his release, and when she stealthily returned to her family for assistance, she was met with violence and cast out. In a desperate bid for survival, she resorted to working in a brothel. Years of hardship had taken their toll on her beauty, and she was reduced to serving as a menial servant. Many years later, I emerged as a renowned merchant in the Great Xia, wealthy beyond measure. One day, while traversing the streets, I encountered Lin Qiuyun once more. She was hunched and dressed in rags, appearing to beg for alms. Upon seeing me, she did not shy away. Instead, she accosted my carriage, hurling accusations that I had ruined her life. I shook my head, finding her both pitiable and loathsome, ultimately saying nothing. I simply lifted the curtain of my carriage and tossed her 2 taels of silver. To my astonishment, she knelt before me, bowing her head in gratitude. How ironic. Humanity is indeed wretched. The end. Thank you for listening. I look forward to our next tale.